Te koto te whānau o Auckland Unitarians. Te koto nā manuhiri. No mai, haere mai ki tēnei whare karakia a te atua. Te koto te tato katoa. Welcome to this space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for 116 years. As you enter, do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave there your pain, your sorrow, or your joys. Bring them with you into this place of acceptance and forgiveness. Place them on the common altar of life and offer them to the possibility of your worship. Come then and offer yourself to potential transformation by the creative process that flows through you and all life. We especially welcome you today if you're here for the first time, and we hope you find the experience enriching. Our Jewish sisters and brothers this week celebrated Yom Kippur. It's the beginning of their new year. This would be their prayer for the new year. Great spirit of life, as the new year begins, we turn inward to reflect about the state of our lives. What lessons have we learned in the past year? Which new ones now call us forward? To whom do we still owe an apology or an expression of thanks? And with whom must we draw fresh boundaries? As we pause from our regular rhythms of rush, we open ourselves to the new perspectives and possibilities. We give thanks for these moments and for the wisdom they afford us. May they help bring us together in the sacred dynamics of life so that we as individuals and members of this community might reach our full potential. As we step across this threshold, let this new year be a year of greater awe and gratitude, of deeper kindness and acceptance, and more courageous acts of conviction. For a kinder, more equitable, and sustainable world is not only possible, she is on her way. And in the quietness of this sacred community, we can ever hear her breathing. Amen. The heart of most spiritual practice is just this. Remember. Remember who you are. Remember what you love. Remember what is sacred. Remember what is true. Remember that you will die and each day is a gift. Remember how you wish to live. I like this challenge that we might remember. I recently finished a fantasy novel. I used to think the genre met my needs for escape literature. Sometimes it does. But often it invites me into nearly obsessive theological reflection. This particular novel did the latter. It had the prerequisite number of dragons, warlocks, mythical characters to capture my imagination. There were supervillains and great heroes. As the novelist is a woman, there were at least as many women heroes as men. A refreshing change. There was another unexpected feature to the characters. The heroes were flawed, and some had done horrible deeds in their past. The villains, on the other hand, were at times unexpectedly unexpectedly noble and self-sacrificing. The premise of the story is a struggle to save humanity from some particularly evil immortals who want to unravel its future, effectively ending the human race. Some particularly good immortals in league with some humans with awesome gifts seek to stop them. Not a particularly unusual storyline for such books. What truly got my theological juices roiling was the relationship between the characters. For instance, a young orphan teenager on a road of self-discovery chooses to bond himself to some proven, disreputable immortals, seeing good in them, to which others are blind, and of which they themselves are unaware. Because the bond is lifelong and unbreakable, it is a remarkable act of trust by each party. The young man and the immortals, in turn, each find the relationship transforming and become key to the book's satisfying ending. Another intriguing aspect to the mortal-immortal relationship is the struggle with remembering. The immortals have to live into eternity, remembering every misdeed, mistake, failure, or loss from their distant past. It affects each differently. Some are cynical, others resign. They all, however, envy mortals who can at least wipe the slate clean at death. But they underestimate how those same things cripple the mortal heroes, keep them from fully using their gifts and living into the future with joy and hope. Perhaps because I knew I had writing this sermon looming in my future, I found the novel interacting with the idea of Shalom. Most of us know it is Hebrew for peace, but it has a more important understanding: wholeness. And deeper yet, it is about being in right relationship with ourselves, our neighbors, and the mystery some choose to call God, but which I understand to be the mystery that exists within, between, and beyond us. Shalom, to be at peace, requires being at one with all. The theologically inclined call this process of seeking to be at one atonement. Atonement may sound simple in a theology paper or sermon, like one day you wake up and know you're at one with the universe. The truth is, the process is really a path we are called to walk through life. Unfortunately, there are few signposts or landmarks to guide us. In the novel, some of the benevolent immortals know the paths that their mortal allies are on and where they lead, but can't tell them out of fear of altering them. Knowing where we want to go is different from knowing we will get there. The former requires making choices, often difficult ones. Which choice is moral? Which is ethical? Are moral and ethical the same? Does one require short-term sacrifice for long-term benefit? Or is it simply self-serving? Do an individual's needs outweigh the common good, or vice versa? Each choice seems to determine the path we are on. There are innumerable choices like these we face all the time, with no way of knowing which is the best choice at the time. All we know is we must make a choice. Later, we might learn by its consequences, even if unintended, if it was a good or a bad one. It is a little like going on a holiday without an itinerary. We have certain knowledge that we will get where we intend, if we have certain knowledge that we will get where we intend in the end because of fate or the hand of God, or we are simply predestined to do so, we become pawns, no longer accountable for the moves we make on the board. Instead of a player in the game we call life, we are played. Last Tuesday was Yom Kippur, the close of the holiest days of the Jewish year, which began with Rosh Hashanah. In Jewish tradition, it is an occasion to choose to become a player and not just played. The good news is you don't have to be Jewish to play. According to legend, on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, the angel of life writes each of our destinies for the year to come. During the 10 days following, the book of life is kept open. If during that time we merely try to understand how to take the Torah's insights with us into the everyday world, the angel of life must reconsider what has been written. Just reviewing how we have lived our lives in the past year will alter the future. The shofar, the ram's horn, will sound at the end of Yom Kippur. Legend says that at that moment, the book of life for the year to come is sealed. All is written. Our destiny is set. The days after Rosh Hashanah and before Yom Kippur are a time to see ourselves as we truly are, without the trappings which may clutter our days and ways. What we will see is awesome. We are called to stand in awe of the universe within us and the universe that surrounds us. Not surprisingly, these are called the days of awe. On Yom Kippur, a day of fasting and prayer, all vows, all promises we have made to ourselves in the last year, all commitments to unswerving thought, opinion, and behavior are canceled, nullified, and made not. Now we are free to re-examine all of our motivations and desires and all the roads we have chosen to walk without critique. It is a day we have been given freedom to choose to be human again. Even in this world where nations refuse sanctuary to the refugee, the poor are ignored and even scorned, where our environment is exploited and destroyed. On Yom Kippur, we are called to look at how we may live our lives in the year to come. We consider our answer to Rabbi Hillel's question: if I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, what am I? In preparation for Yom Kippur, some Jews perform a ceremonial sacrifice called kaparat. It involves holding a rooster in one hand and the prayer book in the other while reciting this text. This is my exchange. This is in my stead. This is my atonement. The rooster is then slaughtered in a kosher manner and given to the poor for their feast, held that day before fasting on Yom Kippur. A story that may not be true, but still is, much like a good fantasy novel can be, is told of this atonement ritual. Once, on the evening before Yom Kippur, one of the followers of Rabbi Elimelech asked to see how he, Rabbi Elimelech, observed the custom of kaparat. They compared methods, and other than the color of the rooster, they did it just the same. But still the disciple wanted to see his rabbi do it. You want to see an extraordinary kaparat, asked Rabbi Elimelech? Go observe how Moshe, the tavern keeper, does kaparat. Now there you'll see something far more inspiring than my own ordinary caparot. The disciple located Moshe's tavern at a crossroads several miles outside of town and asked to stay the night. "I'm sorry," said the tavern keeper. "As you see, this is a small establishment, and we don't have any rooms to let. There's an inn a small distance down the road." "Please," begged the disciple. "I've been traveling all day, and I want to rest a while. I don't need a room. I'll just curl up in a corner for a few hours and be on my way." "Okay," said Moshe. "We'll be closing up shortly, and then you can get some sleep." After much shouting and cajoling and threatening, Moshe succeeded in herding his clientele of drunken peasants out of the door. The chairs and tables were stacked in a corner, and the room, which also served as the tavern keeper's living quarters, was readied for the night. Midnight had long passed, and the hour of caparot was approaching. The disciple, wrapped in his blanket under a table, feigned sleep, but kept watch in the darkened room, determined not to miss anything. Before dawn, Moshe rose from his bed, washed his hands, and recited the morning blessings. "Time for caparot," he called quietly to his wife, taking care not to wake his guest. "Yentl, please bring me the notebook. It's on the shelf above the cupboard." Moshe sat down himself on a small stool, lit a candle, and began reading from the notebook, unaware that his sleeping guest was wide awake and straining to hear every word. The notebook was a diary of all the misdeeds and transgressions the tavern keeper had committed in the course of the year. The date, time, and circumstances of each scrupulously noted. His sins were quite benign. A word of gossip one day, oversleeping the time for prayer on another, neglecting to give his daily coin to charity on a third. But by the time Moshe had read through the first few pages, his face was bathed in tears. For more than an hour, Moshe read and wept until the last page had been turned. "Yentl," he now called to his wife, "bring me the second notebook." This, too, was a diary of all the troubles and misfortunes that had befallen him in the course of the year. On this day, Moshe had been beaten by a gang of peasants. On that day, his child fell ill. Once, in the dead of winter, the family had frozen for several nights for lack of firewood. Another time, their cow had died, and there was no milk until enough money had been saved to buy another. When he had finished reading the second notebook, the tavern keeper lifted his eyes heavenward and said, "So you see, dear Father in heaven, I have sinned against you. Last year I repented and promised to fulfill your commandments, but I repeatedly succumbed to my evil inclination. But last year I also prayed and begged you for a year of health and prosperity, and I trusted in you that it would indeed be this way. Dear Father, today is the eve of Yom Kippur, when everyone forgives and is forgiven. Let us put the past behind us. I'll accept my troubles as atonement for my sins, and you, in your great mercy, shall do the same." Moshe took the two notebooks in his hands, raised them aloft, circled them 3 times above his head, and said, "This is my exchange. This is in my stead. This is my atonement." He then threw them into the fireplace, where the smoldering coals soon turned the tear-stained pages to ashes. This is how Moshe found Shalom. This is how Moshe was able to stay on the unknowable path to become all he might become. To do likewise simply requires spending some time being honest with ourselves, which is not the same as beating up on ourselves. We are doing the latter if we cannot see that we are each an awesome vessel capable of great love. Don't worry about the cracks caused by former missteps or being knocked around some by life. To be a player is to see the light coming through those cracks. It allows us to forgive and be forgiven. It gives us the strength not to let the past define our future. Taking the time to make our atonement keeps us on the path wherever it leads. Shalom. Now I invite you to enter the silence and envision how truly awesome you are in your very essence. Consider how you might live into that in the year ahead. My closing words are a Unitarian version of the Noel Kidra that begins Yom Kippur services. It is the nullification of all vows we made in the past year. We vowed not so long ago to live lives that added, not subtracted. We promised not so long ago to live lives that matched our words. Lives not hard and brittle with anger, but soft with letting go. We made an oath not so long ago to live lives that reached for the stars and did not consist of strings of little disappointments or fragments of the shattered dreams we once used as mirrors to see how good we looked. The days have flown by quickly, and they will flow quickly in the year to come. Circumstance, stress, and brokenness come to all. It's the human condition. And thus I say, before the witness of the blue sky bending above, and before the naughty blue chicory flowers, and before the clear eyes of children not yet born, children who will inherit the world from us, that all the vows we will make not long from now, all the promises we will make, all the unspoken oaths we will declare are hereby canceled, annulled, voided, and made unbinding. We are free, not to promise to be good, but simply to get on with loving each other. We are free not to vow great transformations, but to engage life with tenderness and understanding and outpourings of kindness. We are free not to swear oaths of everlasting loyalty and righteousness, but to continue to be generous to each other, to ourselves, and to the common good. At the start of the new year, we begin again in love. And now, let us close our service as we listen to see you play Bird on a Wire.